Hereby opening Board of Selectmen meeting Monday, January 28th, 2019 at 6:01 p.m. Here at the library. This meeting is being taped by Rutland Cable, and it will be available on YouTube as well. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Could I get a motion to sign Treasury Warrant 16 in minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. And very exciting for the town. We're going to jump right in with our 6 o'clock public hearing. Hereby open the public hearing for an alcoholic beverage license for all kinds of alcoholic beverages to be drunk on premises for the Center Tree Bar and Grill Incorporated at 249 Main Street. Gentlemen, come on up. You could stand there. You could come right there in front if you want, because there's a mic there. It's totally up to you.
Well, hang on. I like
You're on
this.
camera, but you're gonna
This kind of
see
seems
you.
official, so
It is official.
I like this.
Very official.
Good evening, all. Thanks for having us.
You just do name and address.
Yep.
Thank you.
Joe Kaplan, Ben Kaplan. We're talking here about 249 Main Street, Center Tree Bar and Grill. We're here to apply for a liquor license. Currently, we are the owners and operators of Herbie's in Worcester and Lakeside Bar and Grill in Shrewsbury. We've been at Lakeside for coming up just shy of 4 years, and Herbie's just over 2. We're excited about the opportunity to come out to Rutland. We got a great chef on board. The food's going to be delicious. Great drink, great service. You can't beat it.
No, you can't.
Does anybody from the board have any questions?
Just the anticipated date for opening. I mean, it all depends on the process of liquor license.
Yeah, essentially it all depends on the process of the liquor license. All along, we'd kind of been planning, hoping for March 1st. If that works, the liquor license, I do believe we can make that happen. If it's a little bit thereafter, that's fine. Essentially, whenever that comes down, we'll make it work.
What's the holdup on that liquor license?
Just time-wise, we're here tonight, and then based on the results tonight, then it goes to the state, and however long it takes with the state.
Yes, that's the answer.
Yeah.
So you're going to have it from us in about a minute.
Yeah.
And the assumption is you will not open without your liquor license.
Correct.
Okay. What would be your anticipated hours? Do you know that yet?
Still up in the air of sorts. Most likely during the week, looking from 4 to 9:30 for the kitchen. On Saturdays and Sundays, 11 till 9:30ish as well.
Okay. Is there anybody here from the public who has any questions during the public hearing?
One more question, type of menu?
Yeah, so it's still in the works, which is exciting times, as we like to eat a little bit. It's going to be your typical American fare, burgers, sandwiches. There's pizza ovens in-house. The chef happens to be a pizza fanatic, so he's enthused. He's going to be making his own dough and everything like that. Entrees as well. Not necessarily a huge menu, but plenty for everyone for sure. So your typical American fare with some nice twists that'll keep everyone on your toes, and delicious. Fresh as can be, scratch kitchen. For as much as possible, which is great. Incorporate local farmers and everything like that. So we're excited.
We are too.
Yeah.
Hungry.
Hungry,
Yeah.
The town is very excited. I think
Yeah,
you need to be prepared for busy opening days.
Yeah, I think we're pretty ready. We both the places we got right now are they're good places, loyal followings. So we're not scared.
Okay. Hereby close the public hearing on the alcoholic beverage license. Could I get a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the alcoholic beverage license, all kinds of alcoholic beverages to be drunk on the premises for Central Tree Bar and Grill, also known as Center Tree Bar and Grill.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Unanimous. Congratulations.
We need a motion on the common vic.
Thanks,
I
everyone.
got to do the whole hearing on the, so stay where you are.
Oh.
So 6:05, look at us, we're almost on time. Hereby open the public hearing on the common vic license for Center Tree Bar and Grill, Inc. And I think you kind of answered all of our questions. This hearing is open. If you want to talk more about the food, we're happy to hear about it.
Okay. A couple things that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. The chef was talking about doing, so you have like a grilled cheese on your menu, right? But it's an adult grilled cheese. So picture like thick Texas toast, Gruyere cheese on the inside, lobster meat on the inside, smothered in a homemade cheese sauce with more lobster piled on top. So kind of like a knife and fork type of situation here, unless you really want to get in there and get physical with it. I know we still got a bit of a meeting to go, but things like that. So it's it's a grilled cheese, it's a lobster grilled cheese, but it's something a little different that maybe you've never seen before, but that you can come back and get multiple times.
Sounds good to me.
That's just for one, y'all. We got plenty. Don't you worry.
What other communities are you in?
Right now we're in Herbie's is in Worcester. It's actually right on the Auburn line over by Polar, and Lakeside's in Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the Quincy Plaza, so it's right across from White City, where there's a Trader Joe's there, and they just put a new Total Wines and More. We're
Yeah.
right next door, kind of tucked in the corner there.
I know exactly where
Yep.
And do you have any examples of community involvement that you do in either of these?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. We sponsor a youth hockey team in Shrewsbury. There is a girls softball team that we do, which is actually in Auburn, even though we're located in Worcester for Herbie's. And we're always we have a cater out at Lakeside, so we always cater for local people around in the area. And, just kind of try and help people out wherever you can.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, welcome you to our community. Hopefully it's long-lasting.
We hope so. We plan on being here.
Yeah.
Did I ask if anybody in the public had questions? Menu requests, this would be the time. They haven't set their menu yet. No? Ryan?
If you can adopt.
Yeah, see, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking.
Ryan, just identify yourself.
Yeah, Ryan Bjorkman from 22 Charlene. The French Quarter was a really popular restaurant that's no longer there. It was next door to the
Yep.
Tavern. And it would be great to try to incorporate some of what they had. Maybe, I don't know, just thought to bring her
Oh,
on
yeah.
board and really
Yeah, I don't know where
kind of
she-
tag team the event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she local?
She
Went out of
was
business, so-
local.
But the
Yeah.
rent was too high.
Yeah.
Well, something worth looking into at
Yeah.
least for sure.
It was
Yeah.
real popular. And
Yeah.
great.
Thank you. Awesome.
You can completely plead the fifth if you're in the process of negotiating, but you really are planning to use local product because we're, obviously.
Yes. So the plan, as much as possible, a scratch kitchen as much as possible. Obviously, there's certain things that you might need to order from your big distributors, but we'd like to incorporate local farms, wherever we might be. A little different, but we're planning on having some local breweries on our draft line as well, wherever possible. That way it keeps the local feel for everyone, and you're helping out people that might be right up the street.
Brunch? Not right away?
Not right away. I won't slam the door on it though. You never know.
Brunch is hard.
Yeah, but not right away. It's one of those things we kind of gotta
Yeah.
one step at a time.
Work your way up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Hereby, anybody else? No requests? You just liked what you heard, lobster. Great. Okay. Hereby close the public hearing for the common victualers license. Could I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the common victual license for Central Tree Bar and Grill, DBA Center Tree Bar and Grill.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Welcome to town.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You will not get your fancy blue license tonight. Abby's gonna make copies. You can go get it in the office tomorrow. And just for the record, the liquor license is approved here. That is headed over to the state, and that was the delay that everybody was talking about. So we will all wait with bated breath. And if there's anybody around that can make a call, which I don't think that's how the ABCC works at all. But,
Fingers crossed, right?
anything we can do for you.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice to meet
gentlemen.
you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Is there anyone here for public comment? No? Y'all have
Could I-
specific things?
Could I make a motion that we approve the minutes of
Oh, sure.
January 3rd and of January 14th, as
Absolutely.
written?
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Skip.
Good catch.
Thank you. No, public no, okay. We'll head right into department updates and head over to Mike.
As you can see on the agenda, the first thing under the town administrator report is the Wachusett Regional School District Superintendent's joint meeting. The superintendent has reached out to us to ask whether February 28th or March 7th would be good for a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee to discuss the school budget. As of right now, it's leaning more towards the 28th at 7:30. However, I'm still waiting to hear back from a majority of the Finance Committee. So once we get that correspondence there, we'll officially set that. While the school department had their initial budget meeting last week, the cherry sheets had not yet been released by the governor's office, so they had not broken down figures amongst the towns yet, and they should be getting that to me by the end of the week with an estimate as to what our share of the annual school budget will be for the next fiscal year. In terms of the budget updates on the town side for fiscal 2020, Bob had originally sent out the budget sheets for the upcoming fiscal year and gave department heads until this Thursday to turn them back into the town administrator's office with their recommendations. So once that happens, we'll have a better idea as to when we can start setting meetings with the Finance Committee to go over the proposed budget for the next fiscal year before town meeting. As I said before, the governor has released the cherry sheets for 2020. As of right now, it looks like our local receipts, so the income we get from the state, will be slightly down, and our assessments, what we pay the state, will be slightly up. However, those numbers usually change from now until their final date. Normally the Senate numbers are the most accurate between the governor's, the House, and the Senate numbers there. So those could fluctuate as well, too. But that's where we are currently, and we're using that as our foundation to get going from there. Aside from those two items there, Joe Buckley from the DPW and I are currently setting up a meeting right now with representatives from DCR, DOT, CHA Design and Construction, and CMRPC to talk about our TIP project that we have for Palmagussit Road. There was a grant that was sought after for dam repair, and it came in about half of what we had applied for. We applied for $1 million, we got $500,000, and the dam construction is around $2 million. So it's talking about funding options we have for that, if that affects our place on the TIP, which right now it doesn't seem like it's going to. We're still slated for that 2020 slot on that project that's there. During last week and today, I took a tour of Bay Path School and with the superintendent there, showed me around. He said he was very proud that Rutland's numbers are the only municipalities of the member communities there that has increased over the past couple of years. The other member communities, their population for the school has decreased. So he said we're advertising for the school right here if that's happening. And the students who are interested in going into the vocational side of their careers are here in Rutland are really getting the good counseling they need to find that. Today, Chief Monaco and I took a ride down to the Devereaux School and met with Carrie Ann there just for an update, where she informed us that this Friday at 8 a.m. is their annual legislative breakfast for our local officials. So that information will officially be sent out yesterday once I get the flyer scanned. But, I mean, tomorrow. My apologies. I didn't mean to say that. My bad.
I thought it was a
I
joke.
thought that was cool. Yeah.
That was a slip.
Yeah, that was a slip. So, again, Friday, 8 a.m. at the Devereaux School is their legislative breakfast. Aside from that, things are going well. Director Moriarty and I met with a representative from FirstNet. That's the state's emergency network system for phones that we talked briefly about last meeting. The public safety building has switched over to that network from Verizon just to make sure that in the event of an emergency, all of our emergency personnel are able to continue to keep contact with our officers. We're also looking at them for temporary phones for our DPW vehicles. Our radio systems are down on our DPW trucks. So these phones are
98 cents a piece, and they're similar to the old Nextel phones. So you could keep them in there, and it acts almost like a walkie-talkie almost, and would allow Joe to basically, in the event of a snowstorm, send out one radio call rather than what he was doing this storm, where he had to call each truck individually on their cell phone and say, switch to salt, switch to sand, come back, and so on from there. So it's, again, 98 cents a phone, so it shouldn't be too bad. We'd need around ballpark 25 to 30. But that is still being discussed, and when we get a final update there, I'll make sure to let you guys know about that. And I guess the last thing is, just as a fun little side note story, the town has a Super Bowl bet against the city of Madera. That's drawn up a lot more attention than I thought it would. I called Manager Rodriguez in Madera, California on Friday, just threw out the idea, and he jumped at it. And then today I got a phone call from Channel 3 News, who came out to film a story there. The Wall Street Journal called me today about it because they're doing a story on New England bets against California. So that's interesting there.
What are we putting up?
We've had a couple local businesses reach out and say that they're willing to donate some items. The owner of Hardwick Winery lives in Rutland, so he said he'd donate a couple bottles of wine. A couple different other businesses have talked about willing to donate stuff. They're not sure 100% yet. Wachusett has reached out, said they'll donate some football apparel. And then we'll throw some Patriot stuff in there just to make sure that they get the point.
Get the point, yeah.
But
I
it'll be
think we
good.
need to include some of Skip's products.
Yeah.
Hey,
Not that we'll have to send it at all.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think
Good.
we have anything to worry about. But that is that. Any questions?
You need any
Great job.
questions?
Thank you.
thank you.
Just to circle back to the school budget, if you're keeping track, the governor's budget was released. It's not pretty. As it stands right now, it's looking to us as if our minimum local contribution would go up $250,000 according to his numbers. So that's not a good start.
No.
It's been good to see the movement that we thought we would see on the legislative side, but those are just bills filed so far, so we're gonna have to wait it out. So the usual January conversation. All right, thank you, Mike. Under new business, I actually am going to take these out of order since we have our 4th of July committee appointments sitting in front of us. So you have in front of you in your binders 3 letters. 4th of July and a cover sheet with their recommendation. We appreciate that you guys came in. So the people here to be appointed are Beth, Tracy, and Jeremy. Welcome, all 3.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Jeremy.
Hi. I
And,
never
um,
would have guessed that. That was not like her.
Beth and Tracy couldn't make it tonight, but we're here.
Oh, yeah, I was-
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
looking at you going, I'm trying to do the committee. Yeah.
Crazy.
Thank you, Missy. As I'm looking right at you.
Motion to appoint.
Thanks. Anyone?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any conversation?
No.
Then, you have a meeting coming up?
We do on the, was it 13th?
Yep, February.
13th.
All right, we're looking
here.
forward to the
We're-
theme.
Yeah. No, we're gonna be
Lots of
talking about it
people
at that
are- yeah.
meeting. So. No pressure. No pressure.
Sure.
Did you say
Make it a
February?
good one.
All right, Jeremy, thank you for joining. I'm sure they had to twist your arm because, you know,
I asked.
such a serious group.
They are. When it comes down to the nit and gritty, they can be serious. Believe me. And yeah, I'm honored to be on board with these guys.
Well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anything that people should know? You're on camera.
Well, we're starting up meetings next week,
Okay.
and we'll be meeting right up until the 4th of July, getting
Yeah.
stuff done once a month. So I'm looking forward to another great year. We had last year was our first year for the new kind of chairman and leads, I'll call it.
Yeah.
But things went well, and we learned a lot. I'm sure we have more to learn, but
You still have your mentors sort of waiting in the wings?
we do. Yes,
Okay.
we do. There.
And just for clarification, since budget season's coming up, the 4th of July stuff is all volunteer, self-funded. There's nothing that comes from the town budget. So I just wanted that clarification since we're broadcast also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. Yeah.
The link
Any
is,
donations?
the link is still up, right, on the town
It is.
It
pages?
should be, yes.
Okay,
It absolutely is. Yep.
okay, great.
Awesome.
I think back in the day you did used to get money from the town. It was in the line item.
A long time ago.
Long time
Yeah.
ago.
I think it was fiscal 15.
Oh, no, that was actually a special
Oh.
request. 15 is, yeah, that was a random one.
Because of was that the storm?
Something had happened. Was it something about police detail? Do you remember, Nick?
Yeah.
No.
because-
2015 was a special request, and the money, we found it at a special town meeting, but
Oh.
it used to be in the regular budget.
Yeah.
We had to do
Did
something.
it?
Back in the day, yes.
Well, we would have been back in that day.
All right.
Are there any vacancies?
We've been in.
Does this fill the committee, or are there still vacancies?
We don't have a set number, so really, if folks are looking to volunteer, then we'll take them on.
Yeah.
The more,
They meet,
the better.
they meet your qualifications and run the gauntlet, and, all right. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Great.
Welcome,
Welcome.
Jeremy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell Beth and Tracy, just say, I just pretended
Yes.
they were you.
Let 'em know.
Okay,
Like I've never met you before.
Let us know if there's anything we can
thank
do.
you.
We will.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, town building use reservations. This was brought up because they're, it's one of our growing pains issues, and it's become probably more of an issue, and is about to be, again, even more of an issue, in particular if we end up with the plans to move and expand our regional dispatch. So there was apparently a little bit of a mix-up. There was an overlap at one of our locations with reservations. It brought up a bunch of questions. So I think for the board tonight, we just need to talk about how we can improve the process. As it stands right now, we essentially have Abby keeping a binder. Is that correct, Abby? Yeah. Abby keeping a binder. So there's nothing online for people to reference. They have no idea where they could go. In some cases, there is a print calendar that somebody brings in every year, and people just pencil in what they want to do with absolutely no oversight. The library is possibly a good representative of where we could head. The library does not allow groups to set their meetings up to a certain point. I don't know if it's 6 months or, do you know, Brian? No. But obviously, a lot of our nonprofits are trying to schedule meetings a year out, right? So for a calendar year, we could talk about that. Mike could probably talk more about this, but the new module on the upgraded town website allows us to have a calendar, an interactive calendar that's managed by, say, our office, one person in our office.
Yeah,
I think that's a great job for our town administrator.
Yeah.
yeah.
Find a
The
solution to them, report
Yeah.
back.
yeah, the update for the website, Virtual Town Hall was purchased by Civic Plus, who was the website host that we had, or that I had at my previous job. There is a module there for a calendar setting that you can go in and fill out a form that would be emailed to whomever you choose to email it. You can either have it set to just one person, or you can put a drop-down menu, and depending on the location where you want to go, it could email to a different person, and they can approve it. And what it is it goes up on a calendar that anyone can go in and see and drop down and say, in the Wood Studio, it's scheduled for this person on this day at this time, but it's free at this time. In the conference room at the library, it's open at this time, but it's booked at this time by this person until this time. So on from there. So there is a way to incorporate the upgrade that we're doing anyway into this to find a solution for this problem. It should be a quick fix once we get converted over.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I have a question. Is there a way to limit who can, can we designate a person from each group to do those calendar reservations or something? Or would all the reservations still have to go through you or Abby or Laura or, you know what I mean? Like, to keep it somewhat self-serve, but also not a free-for-all.
So I think that's a conversation we have to have, because this is sort of the administrative piece of it, which is going to be amazing for management end.
Right.
But in terms of how we, policy-wise, make this work, it's
Right.
going to be a question of, well, do you have town committees and commissions have the first 2 weeks of the year or the first whatever, an open period where they can plug in first the spaces that they need. Then we allow the nonprofits to come in. Do we set limitations on nonprofits for X number of hours or square footage per year? I don't know the answer to that yet. These are things we're going to have to come up with. Obviously, I would guess we wouldn't move forward with changing or taking away anything that's already been set since we're already in the end of January. I think the other thing, and how much you want to talk about this, is we probably need to do an honest to God inventory of our available rentable spaces and see what their availability is hour-wise, what their limitations are. We have some that have security issues or whatever, and we have some that maybe need work before they can be used. Obviously, we know the library has the room in the back that's currently just storage, so that would require some infrastructure improvements if we wanted to move forward with that. Skip's laughing. I think the other thing that we're probably not fully taking advantage of, or maybe the nonprofits aren't because they don't know about it, are the school parcels. We can look at the lease with the school that was updated back in 2016. There were some changes to it when it came to the town using that. And they obviously have the first shot at it, but I think there's plenty of situations where there are open meeting rooms in the schools. And during the week, that there would not be a cost incurred there, or at least there shouldn't be, because there's already custodial staff in the building. So I'd like to include that in our inventory. So, from our end, maybe we can start doing that. I think we need to reach out to the library, to community center on Glenwood, to try to figure out what we actually have for hours available, because I don't think anybody's got a strong sense of that anymore.
I would also wonder if, I don't know how Girl Scouts works, but I know for Boy Scouts that they are kind of sponsored by the churches. They are kind of co-chartered by a church. So I wonder what the church availability would be to facilitate meeting space for organizations that they kind of co-sponsor or co-charter or whatever. Obviously, it's probably not going to be a be-all, save-all, but that could be another option for a couple groups at least.
I always wonder about is it the Masons building on 122A? I've never been in it. Is it private?
You're not a Mason.
Is it that the
That's
Rufus
probably
Putnam?
why.
Yeah. The Rufus Putnam one, right beside Naquan.
They had an open house. They have an open house once or twice a year.
Yeah.
I know it.
I
I
went
missed it. It was in October.
I went in. Had to see it.
We're at such a premium, with space. We have groups that are growing. They're not getting smaller in pretty much every sense. People who are using the library, people who are using community center, you name it. The packs and the troops are growing, so.
It's going to be a very cool meeting room is the old fire barn upstairs.
That's true.
It's going to be nice.
Someday.
Yeah, but I mean, the original hardwood
Good luck.
floors.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty nice.
Now, the issue with that is that unless they're planning on putting in a chairlift, they won't be able to schedule any public meetings there.
But there
because
was
of ADA.
going to be one.
Was there?
I think they are. They're doing
Okay,
it like
Yeah,
in the
there is.
back. They're going to.
Great.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a nice open room to be kind of incorporating in their museum theme, where they used to have the meetings back in the 1800s.
So, part of that, just because we brought up the library a couple times, obviously the library's spaces are at a premium. They've got the 2 rooms down here. They have a room upstairs that tends to be reserved fairly minimally. They have the children's room that I'm not sure gets used by any group other than the children's librarian for her programs. And then I guess, the question too is this, and whether or not some meetings should be moved here. The fact that this is the quote Board of Selectmen's room and we only meet twice a month is probably not the
Good use, right?
ideal full-time use of space. Probably a conversation we all need to have, so. Does that sound like a plan moving forward? Skip has thoughts. Skip has.
You have yet to work with the library to use their space.
That's not true. I've been here as long as you. I've worked at the
I've worked with them too.
We'll have
Is
a
it-
And you can ask that young man right over there how much of a problem it was to get just this area for the selectman's office or selectman's meeting room.
Well, Paul, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and you're just one person. Obviously, you have to go back to cable, but would you agree that the conversation needs to happen moving forward, that more public meetings could be held here if it suits the purpose?
Okay, as it was originally set up here, I was not averse to having the room used by somebody else. However, people started to use it, and I came in the morning and found paper cups and everything all over the floor. The furniture was awry, and there were all sorts of things, minor stuff like that.
Yep.
All right. I talked with Gary about it at the time, former DPW director, and he was short on staff at that particular point, and I don't know if the situation has changed to any degree at this point in time. I'm just not aware of it. Okay. So it was decided, you know, that if I'm going to clean it up and take care of it, that I'll clean it up and take care of it. And, you know, I've allowed, you know, every so often I've gotten a call from Kerry saying, you know, can we use the room? I said, oh, yeah, you can use the room. You know, I don't have a problem with that. But, again, you know, I don't want people to leave it worse than they found it. Let's put it that way.
And I don't think that problem is just you, right? That's an issue we have across the board with the condition that rooms are left in, no matter where the room is across the town. I think that's a
Well, up to this point,
universal
I've been the
concern.
maid service,
Okay.
okay? And, you know,
Right.
fine, it is what it is. But as far as all those things go, you know, if it's going to continue to be turmoil when I come in the morning after somebody uses it the night before, I can use one word to say it, and that's nuts.
So that's a valid point. So let's add that to the list. We obviously have a building use form right now that includes some language for damages and things like that. One thing we've never talked about is proactively taking almost like a security deposit, including from the nonprofits, and saying, look, at the end of the calendar year, based on what was found, based on reporting, and of course we'd have to have a paper trail, you're not going to get your deposit back, and here's why, and you know, things like that. Because I don't think you're alone in this, clearly.
I know that was a complaint with Nancy and with the community center and the senior center space and everything, was that they felt like they were the maid service also.
Mhm.
And so I also wonder if it could be somehow clearly communicated that as a town, we don't have a maid service to come in and clean up. You know, I think that there's some places do have a service that comes in once a week or something to do a clean. We don't have that luxury with the budget that we have. So just that it's very clearly communicated that it's a carry in, carry out kind of deal.
As I explained to Kerry, you're welcome to use the room, you know, but I really want people to take their stuff, what they bring here, take it with you.
So,
Okay, that's probably the best way I can put it.
So Paul, from that perspective, I can't imagine using this room for anything much other than board, committee, commission meetings. Does that make sense? That's what it's set
Essentially,
for, right?
yeah,
I mean,
you know.
that's,
There've been some things where people have come in and wanted to use the overhead projector for things. Okay, yeah, you know.
okay.
When it comes down to that, then I would come up here and set it up for them and take care of it, and then, you know,
Yeah,
let them use it.
yep.
Peter has now been backing me up with setting up either of this room or the Blair room with the overhead projectors, and so, you know, at this point in time, we do have the luxury of having two people.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it is what it is. Basically, like I said, I'm the maid service, and so, you know, if it's going to come down to coming in here and finding a place turned upside down every time, I would probably ask the board to say, you know, please stop.
So to Leah's point, we don't have the staff to clean, but more importantly, we don't have the staff to check on the rooms after somebody's done with them. So, you know, a meeting will come, it'll end late, and there's nobody to take that last look in, lock up after them. Do you know what I mean? It's all very much a self-monitored situation, and I don't think that's helping. So I'm not sure how to address that. It might be
All of the above.
location specific. So yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. Anybody? No? We have a start of a plan?
Sure.
Okay.
The beginning.
This will be a process. Okay? Thanks, Paul.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Boy Scout Pack 141. Welcome.
Welcome, sir.
Say your name.
Kyle B. Orkland,
Where do you live?
22 Sherland Drive.
Welcome, Kyle.
Thanks for coming.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Carl wants you to.
Come on, Dad, give me some help, Dad.
All right, I'll help you. You have to talk into the.
Yep.
Kyle, if you're more comfortable, you actually can sit with your dad in the chairs.
You wanna sit
don't
in the
have
chairs?
to.
Yeah, why don't you guys sit with
You don't
us?
have
Alright,
to do the podium.
Stand up.
Would that be easier? Come sit.
Come sit right here, Kyle.
You and your dad come in the front.
Oh, right up
Come
front
right in
here.
the, come right in the
Right up
front.
front.
Because you're here to talk to us, so you might as well come in the front.
Tell us what's on your mind.
How's it going?
Did it nice and loud, okay?
So Kyle, I hear that you now have a pack that has combined, right? So pack 141 has gotten bigger?
With 306?
Okay. And are you the ones that have the big cabinet that's down in the basement of Community Hall across the street? That big wooden cabinet?
I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
Really? Because I heard there was a racetrack in it.
Oh.
So what we're gonna talk about
That's what we
today?
want to talk about. So guy, can you read this, okay? I'll help you with names.
Hey, did you know I was on 141 back in the day?
Yep.
That's how old. That's how old. that pack
All right,
is.
so I'll help you read it, okay? Good evening. We are members of Cub Scout Pack 141, and we are here tonight to challenge Fire Chief Knipe, Police Chief Monaco, DPW Director Buckley, Dispatch Director Moriarty, Selectman Stillings, and Town Administrator Nicholson to race each other at our annual Pinewood Derby in March. Carl was supposed to be here tonight, but he got held up at the Lion meeting, and he was going to hand out cars to every department head. And we'll get you the set of rules to follow later in the week. The winner will receive a trophy and bragging rights for the year. You want to say that last sentence?
Challenge.
And your thanks from the members of the Wolf's Den.
Well, thank
The
you.
Wolf Den. Thank you, Kyle.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
So, have you made these cars before, Kyle? How much can the department heads do to the cars? Can they do whatever they want?
There's a set of rules, right?
Is there?
Yeah, what about the weight? What's the weight?
I think it's 5 ounces, but
Right.
we'll get those rules to everybody by the end of
That's
the
the
week.
key, right?
It is.
Where you put it.
When is this race?
Let me check on that for you.
Okay.
Did you know about this, chief?
I did.
Did you accept or decline?
I accept on
Oh.
behalf of.
And you cannot use a previously used car.
You
Yeah,
accept on behalf of all department heads? Is
I
that what we
do.
just heard? Okay, you heard it.
Oh.
So it's on March 9th.
March 9th.
Awesome.
And is it over at the basement of Community Hall?
I think it's going to be at Naquag this year.
Oh, at Naquan?
I believe so.
Okay.
What day is that?
It's a Saturday.
So Saturday, March 9th, about what time?
I'm not sure quite yet. Carl has that information.
Pack 141, it's called the Pinewood Derby.
Pinewood Derby.
Okay.
And
what are-
check-in is the night before.
And we noticed that you listed Selectman Stillings. What are the rest of us supposed to be doing?
Helping him out.
Cheering me
Oh,
on.
Cheering?
Cheering him on,
We're
yeah.
cheering. Okay.
We figured as a previous scout in Pack 141, he would.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Fair enough.
I think I got tossed from the Pinewood because of the weight.
Oh,
We
yeah?
had too many of the washers underneath, so we actually had to.
We
Yep.
can recruit Alex to help you.
Chip
Did
it
you know
out
my
there.
son is a Boy Scout in 141? Do you know Alex Waitman? I don't
You
know.
do now.
Now, you've combined troops.
Yes.
So is this is still the last of the 141, or is this also the other troop?
This is both troops
Both
working
troops together.
together as one. So
Okay.
we're Pack 141, and it's been great.
Is there a significance of the March 9th day, or is it just
It's just
springtime in there?
springtime. Yep.
Well, I accept your challenge, sir.
Great. Oh, shake your hand.
I accept your challenge.
Same over here, Kyle.
The
Okay, and
dangest
over here?
car.
Thank you very much.
How about the chief?
All right.
Well, Kyle, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks. I was in Pack 9 when I was your
I
name.
accept.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
In Worcester?
No, Gardner.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And maybe talk about, we can make this March 9th Pinewood Derby Day, or Troop 141 Day in the town of Rutland?
Pack 141.
Pack 141.
Pack 141. Pinewood
Pack
Derby.
and troop.
Pinewood Derby Day, I like that.
Don't-
Derby Day is
Talk
great.
about that.
Don't we think we ought to let them make sure they don't have other functions that's gonna
At Naquan?
No, at Pac 141, if we ask them to designate that day all the time for Pinewood Derby
No, it's
Day?
just for the year, it's just for that
No,
one day.
just for, we'll give them a little
Yeah.
certificate right there, get this.
Oh, yeah, well, I understood that, but I meant, I thought you wanted to make it a permanent thing.
Oh, no, I
Like a national holiday? That would be
don't
fun.
have that juice, I don't have the juice, yeah. I'm just talking a certificate for the young man here, I make the motion anyways, I make the motion.
It's not on the agenda, however, we will add it to the next agenda. Or
Yeah,
at least before March 9th,
Yeah,
to make
but
sure we
he's on the
designate.
agenda.
They are
to
on the
speak.
agenda, but designating a day is not on the agenda.
All right, can we be added to the next agenda, I'd like to,
Absolutely.
and then, Brian, if you could maybe come across how it should be worded, is it gonna be Troop 141, or?
Tack.
Pack
Pack
141. So the troop are the Boy Scouts, and the pack are the Cub Scouts.
And the packs are the ones that do the Pinewood Derby.
Yes.
Boy Scouts help out sometimes,
Does that fall
but
under
they
that?
don't
Yep.
usually participate in the official
No, it
Pinewood
doesn't.
Derby. They can be-
And our pack is, we're involved with both troops, so Troop 306 and Troop 141 are both, you know, we're working with both of them.
Sounds really good. Kyle, we appreciate you coming in. You guys are welcome anytime. Anytime the scouts, you know, we have Eagle Scouts who come in that present us with big projects that they'd like to do in town. We have Girl Scouts doing gold awards, and yeah, we're always happy to see you people.
This is the Wolf Pack, right?
Wolf Den.
The Wolf Den?
Yep.
Is that like a subdivision of the,
It's the second graders, the second grade class.
Oh.
similar to the Cubs?
It's part of the Cub Scouts.
Okay, gotcha.
We've got the Wolves, who are kindergartners, then Tigers, who are first graders. Second graders are Wolves, and then Bears, Weeblos, and Arrow Lights.
Oh,
Then you cross over to Boy Scouts.
all right.
So it's your last year at Naquan? You're the biggest ones there. Nice.
Even though I'm only 7.
That's great.
That's okay.
Takes a lot of courage to come in here and speak and present, and that was very classy of you to come in and do it formally to the chief and the board. We appreciate that. Very impressive. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot, Kyle.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks for
guys.
coming in.
Thanks.
Very nice.
All right, onward with the fun stuff. So, our police chief is here, and I have to say, public safety department tends to get quite a few accolades, all things considered, relative to the rest of the town. They're always doing really great things, and it is rare that we get a chance to give some accolades to our water department. So we have here, and they are not here to accept it. So tonight is just more like an
Yeah.
announcement.
Yes.
What did you say, Mike? When do they want to come in?
So Joe was able to come tonight, but Joe thought that this award the people who really should be recognized are the people who work at the water department, and he wanted to make sure that they could all be here for this. So
Okay.
the next meeting,
Okay.
on February 11th, they'll be here to officially accept the award, but the announcement's being made tonight.
All right, so this is a 2017 Water Quality Award presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Good stuff.
So, can I get, I don't need a motion, this was just the certificate of appreciation, but we're gonna hold on to this so that we can have a proper presentation when our water department's able to make it in, but definitely a good thing that we, you know, it's one of those quiet, silent, everything's going fine, and nobody thinks about it, but pretty serious business up there. Okay, under old business, we have the building review committee. You have some letters in your packet from people who are interested in being on it.
The letters in the packet of the bylaw committee, Sheila?
Oh, the letters of the bylaw.
Yes.
Okay.
The draft
Here we go.
form.
I see it.
Yeah.
I found it. Sorry. Changing around. The building review committee is the draft document that Mike gave you as you walked in.
This is a early draft of the charge for them. If you have any
drafted
thoughts on
it?
that, I did.
So I don't know if anybody remembers, but this was something Margaret had brought up quite some time ago, and I think initially the conversation was that it would be a created committee with a request for residents to be on it with an emphasis on specialties in the trades. The more she talked about it and the more things started coming up with the buildings, and we know that Joe has walked around some of the buildings now that he's been here a couple weeks, it was made more clear that it should be a committee of mostly professionals and people here in the town, and that maybe they're going to need some consulting work at some point. But we've got some serious building envelope situations going on. This building we know, all by itself. And so that's the list that they came up with, that Mike came up with, and then you could see he added the two, and that's up for discussion, qualified members of the general public, where, maybe we do have an architect out there,
Sure you do.
or somebody who's got some really relevant experience that we want to include as somebody with an
Local
objective
builder.
eye.
Sure, yeah.
Electrician, plumber.
Yeah, I can say that the reason why these department heads were picked for this is during my first week when I sat down and met with each of the department heads, these are the ones that already had a list of, these are some issues we have with this building. So the fact that these 3 or 4 department heads all had the same list for different reasons for the same buildings, as a way to combine all those concerns into one, I figured this would be a good way to do that while still getting some input from the public for someone who has a background in building maintenance, construction, design, things like that.
So this was on our goals list as well. I'm not sure how much this committee will be able to get done in time to have us include anything on town meeting, and whether we'll be prepared at that point to go for money for specific projects, should we need them, but it's a start.
What do you need from us at this point?
This
Approval of the charge, or?
This would be approval, creation of the ad hoc building committee, and approval of the charge.
So this is saying that there's 4 named people or members, which are the town department heads that are,
Yes.
and then plus currently you're recommending 2 qualified members of
Yeah.
the general public.
And that was
That
just
would be 6. Is that what you're thinking? I'm just.
yeah, that
that
could
should be
work.
nice.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
really a voting
Right,
committee,
it's
so.
it's just
Yeah,
a
there's
committee
n-
to make recommendations.
exactly,
and
yeah.
I get that. I just was making
Yeah.
sure that 6 was a good number for.
Yeah.
You could make it 3 qualified members of the public, or you could include somebody else. I'm trying to think who that would be from.
Well, I would think if we had somebody, 3 people that are extremely qualified, we could always amend it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, because that number was just thrown out as a round ballpark number.
right,
Because you don't want too many people,
correct.
because then it just keeps getting drawn out. But at the same time, you want enough people to make sure you accurately get what you need to get done.
Can we just say 2 or 3, 2 to 3 members of the general public, and that way
That
we
could
don't
work.
have to come back to amend? I don't know. I
Up
mean,
to 3? And up to 3
up to 3.
qualified
Could be
members?
up to 3. Sure.
Yeah, that could work.
I think the other question, maybe Skip, you could chime in on this. Would Pete be a good addition to this? He knows these buildings really well. So he's
would
at the
be.
water department now, unfortunately, but it's
Yes,
almost like he's
yeah.
missed his calling a little bit. And I
Yeah,
wonder.
he would be good for it.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe we can loop him in. Maybe
Sure.
even if he can't make every meeting, he's an amazing resource. I mean, this is the guy that's been doing
Mm-hmm.
the
You've met him.
repairs for
Yeah.
a tenth
Yeah.
of the cost in some cases or more.
Yeah.
than
No, I've
we
met
got-
Pete before. I think
than
that's a
we
good
got
idea.
with- Yeah.
This doesn't say who chairs the committee.
Yeah, I didn't know whether or not to put that in.
Let them make their own chair and whatever, once they get established. Vote chair, vice chair, and whoever, whatever.
I mean, my sense is right, that they're gonna go through and kind of come up with a list, look at the buildings and come up with a list and not make a whole lot of big decisions. I mean,
Yeah.
Sounds
But,
good.
But you gotta have somebody run the
You
board,
still
run
have to
the
have somebody
group.
run the
right,
meeting.
right, oh, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
would
I
be
mean,
the,
you wouldn't think that the town administrator would be the de facto.
that was my original thought.
Chair.
I just didn't know if that was something to put into two-way charger or not.
You fine with that too?
you don't have enough to do already? I think you should give it off to one of these other people, and you're there to make sure they're doing it right.
That's true too.
Personally, I mean, that's my thought.
You could say like in the absence of a,
Well, we go back to letting the committee.
I say let the committee.
Vote
Select
their
the
own,
chairman.
yeah, select their own, and,
Yeah. All right.
I mean,
So
let's be real.
I'll make a motion that we, create an ad hoc building committee and approve this ad hoc building committee charge with the, edit just to say up to 3 members of the general public. with
Second.
strong background.
All right. And then we're also going to talk about adding Pete as
Yes.
is available.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
That would go along with the Public Works.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. Great. Progress being made.
Thanks for writing that up, Mike.
Thanks.
Oh,
Mike.
thank you.
Okay. Green communities. Come on down. Oh, you might need to fix the mic.
I mean, I am short, but.
Yeah.
You're not that tall.
I know. What did she? Yeah.
She thinks she is.
And I emailed these over earlier, but I know not everyone would get a chance to look today.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Trying to think where to start, other than Rutland was officially designated as a green community at the end of last year.
Could you please identify yourself for the camera?
Laura Paradise, I work in the Town Administrator Board of Selectmen's office. It's my first meeting, I think, yeah. So with the designation, we are awarded a $145,622 first-year grant. The first page on the little handout, back in the fall, Dominique Dutremble from CMRPC came to a meeting and presented the energy reduction plan. It included this list of potential projects to reach our 20% energy reduction goal. So we can kind of pick and choose from this list. I also included, because it wasn't available at the time, weatherization measures for all of the buildings. And I crossed out the schools because I think as it was approved at the time, the energy reduction plan didn't include the school buildings. We're working on adding them back in, pending some policies that the school committee would need to review and adopt. So rather than kind of waiting for that to happen, because it sounds like it's a multi-step process. So the point that we are at now, and unfortunately they don't give you much time to really work with once you're designated at the end of December. You have until February 8th to get your grant application in with your list of projects that you want to tackle within the first year. So the third page is I've pulled of that big project list and some of the weatherization measures what I think would be a good way to start, but it's open to suggestion. And I've also gotten the impression from CMRPC that this is just to get us started so that we get started early enough in the year and can meet the end of the year deadline for everything. But things can be added and removed throughout. And I think the whole amount doesn't need to be accounted for by February 8th. But this is sort of jumping off point.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much.
And I'm here for any questions that hopefully I can answer or I can pass them along.
Well, so I think we need a plan of action, right? Because you
Right.
have a hard deadline. We have a hard deadline.
Right.
Of next Friday?
Next Friday.
Friday, February 8th, of submission. So I guess I'm wondering what our flexibility level is with, we know how much money we have, how much on February 8th needs to be accounted for in projects we'd like to do.
So I wasn't really given a account for this much figure,
Okay.
just that the more we can kind of incorporate early on, the better. I don't know really what the procedure is for going back after the fact, if
You
it
don't know
delays
either. This is
everything.
new.
Yeah,
Brand new.
this is all new.
So once you submit your initial proposal, which is due next Friday, amendments can be added later on through the state department that oversees the Green Communities
DOER, I think,
program, to say we didn't use our entire grant, we've got this much left over, and we'd like to do this project that falls within that dollar amount. Can we add that to our list? It's pretty common for municipalities to do that.
So do the administrators of the grant typically see municipalities putting in for projects that don't total their full grant right away?
Yes.
Is there a percentage goal there? Is it 70%, 50%?
You try to get as much as you can.
As much as you can in the first time?
Yeah.
And then tweak it as you
Yeah,
go?
Exactly.
Okay, so I guess the question for the two of you, or you, is do we want to use up to $7,000 of our 147 on having CMRPC administer the grant for us?
I would say yes, myself, but
I'm really torn, Skip. I'm, we've had so many years where $7,000 was an enormous amount of money to us, and I'm wondering for 147 and the big projects that we have, if it's money well spent. It's an honest question. I don't know.
oh, they helped us get this, right?
They did.
They
All
did
right,
through the
so why don't we
Medicare,
get, I don't have a problem giving them another $7,000 to go forward with it. I have no problem with it.
Really?
I guess,
Who's gonna do it if they don't do it for us?
well, that was gonna be my question, is how much time from Laura, Abby, Mike, is it going to be to administer it outside? I mean, you guys are busy as it is, right? Like, without administering this, but if it's something that is near and dear to your heart, I also wanna hear that from you, and if it's something you really feel strongly like you wanna do, then I wanna hear that also. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I would like to see, Mike and Laura get, right of first refusal, if that's something you wanna do. If not, we'll skip.
So before you answer,
Yes.
I'm going to throw just one more thing out. If we look at Laura's first-year project list, there's a lot of, small-ish projects that total up to close to our full grant. Not completely, but total close. If we go in that route, it might be well worth having CMRPC administer it, because it's a lot of little things to
They can
just
help
keep
identify,
track
more
of, right?
ideal projects to work on, I think.
If we went in a different direction, which was trying to push the majority of the money towards community hall, knowing we have other things going on there, and this would get us in the right direction. If we want to go with vehicles, which will take up a good chunk of change, and then Laura, the other thing, is it still on there? The other thing that would take up a good chunk of change, right, we're looking at 1/3 of the whole grant, is the Public Works propane heating project, which actually has the best projected annual cost savings percentages of all of them. With well, not of all of them, but close. But it's it's like a 10-year repayment of the money put out. So if we were looking at, three big, we're just gonna buy this, we're just gonna do this, I don't know that we need CMRPC. Whereas if we're gonna go with that list of a lot of stuff, I don't know.
Mike?
I have been thinking a lot about this one. Mainly because the first year with Green Communities, one gets you the grant money, but two gets your foot into the door for the second year, which is where you get your big chunk. So I think, correct me if I'm right, if we finish our first year grant, then we're eligible for $250,000 next year?
I think it's up to 250,000. It's a more competitive grant cycle, and they want to see better sort of savings and
So,
long-term, but
yeah, the Green Communities Department of, again, the state agency, that I just can't remember what state agency run, the OEI, basically wants to make sure that with your initial grant round, you know what you're doing, so that they can trust you for the more competitive second round.
Makes sense.
So that's why part of me likes the idea of doing the smaller ones this year that we know we can get done and get done correctly, so that we have a better standing for next year when we're eligible for more money. But I do completely understand we have $140,000 to use, let's use it. Where after all of these proposals, we still have $32,000 left unaccounted for in these grants that we can go back and amend and add. It's the 7,000 can be doable. And I've worked with Green Communities in the past before too, so I know how the process works. So I guess in the long run, if we want to do big projects, then I would say we don't need CMRPC. If we stay with the small projects, just like Sheila said, I would have CMRPC do it, just because our first year needs to be our cleanest year with Green Communities to make sure we have the good standing to get on from there. So it all just depends on whether the consensus is that we should aim for these smaller things throughout the different buildings that we have, or strike at the big tough stuff first.
Great.
I think we should do a bunch of the small ones, get them done to show people that we're really trying.
Well, that's what I was wondering if because some of these are, I mean, they're small, but then they're also, right, like parts of a bigger project, right? I mean, you're not totally ignoring community hall. It's there. We're not totally ignoring the vehicles. There's the pilot one vehicle.
Well, it's a technology that will go into one
Right.
car, but.
Right, but so if we can do these pieces and show that, yes, we can do it, yes, we're successful in doing it in the sense of like we have vendors or whatever that are able to do this for us and we're happy with it, then we can know where to put the bulk of the money next year. And we still have the 32,000 remaining that if we want to bump up more to community hall, we could do this year even. We could do that. I hesitate to do a ton with community hall until we have a more solid plan because I don't want to do something prematurely that then is going to need to be redone when we do something, you know, once a final decision with community hall has been made. I don't know if that would happen or not, but I'm torn between all of it.
So if you guys like the majority of the list, and I agree, a lot of it's really good, and to Leah's point about questions about community hall, the LED lighting, which is quite a bit of money at almost $14,000, and the hot water pipe insulation, which seems like a no-brainer, but what if we have to redo our heating system? Do we switch out those and try to get a vehicle, even though the vehicles are actually listed on 2022? Instead, how would DOER look at that? And yeah, I don't know.
What's the vehicle? What kind of vehicle are we talking about?
So, as it's included on this list, it actually doesn't allocate any of the grant funding towards that. And I emailed Dominique at CMRPC and Kelly Brown at DOER today, because Joe had also asked what kind of vehicles would be eligible under the grant. So if we can incorporate either replacing a DPW vehicle or any of the other departments that may need a vehicle, that might be worth swapping in lieu of the other projects. But right now I don't have a definite answer on what we might be capable of doing with that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, where was the top sheet that generated from, the full project list?
So that was last summer, ECI, Energy Conservation Inc., came and did audits of all the buildings in town.
And they plugged in these dates?
I believe so. I think this, between them and CMRPC, when they built the energy reduction plan for us through the Meta grant. So I don't know if they're not set in stone. I think it's an ideal.
Yeah, normally when those two agencies make a plan, they do suggested timelines. That way it's not hitting the town at once.
Yep.
I wonder if for some of these, because a lot of these are LED lighting, and I assume that means switching out the lighting, the current existing lighting to LED. For some of it, I don't know what plans are in the works for the water treatment plant, but that has a target of, is that on this current list? Because those will have a lot of annual savings also projected for us. So I wonder if doing the LED lighting for the spaces that we don't necessarily have an immediate plan for renovation or even to consider renovation, that would be a big bang for our buck in the savings side as well as using our grant money. I don't know.
So the LED lighting looks like it has about a 10-year repay as well, if the community hall is an example.
I think the more you can pump at the community hall, the better with if our goal of revamping the annex into a big dispatch center.
I know, just worried that we do the lighting and then they say, well.
You gotta change it.
Yeah.
Well, they can work around it. I mean, if you just put in a new LED system,
Yeah, that.
It's an old building, you adjust. But, all right, what do we have to vote on here?
We need a direction. So essentially, are we going with this first year project list as presented? Are we gonna make a few changes? And are we going to go with a CMRPC administration of the grant, which will take up about, $60,000 worth of the money, but will then provide us with everything that they listed on, I think, the last page, which are the deliverables. So that's sort of what you get for your money when it comes to, saying to CMRPC, please do this for us.
Yeah, and they'll be right there to help us write the next one for the 200 and, what'd you say, 250,000?
Up to 250,000, yes.
Up to, yeah.
I don't want to take it away from you, Laura, or Mike, or Abby, or I am legitimately interested in hearing but I feel like it's a good investment, and if you have a good working relationship with them and feel like you can still learn from them and facilitate that and not have the pressure of it all being on you if something else comes in, I'm all for it. But if you really want to do it, I don't want to take it away from you.
I mean, I won't speak for Mike, but having worked pretty closely with them on the full application process last year and just how much work they did do on it for us, I would lean towards kind of utilizing them because of my own limited experience with grant administration.
Is that the way you feel too, Mike?
Yes, and I think that part of that too could be if they were to help us this year, we could use it as a training tool for next year. So see how it goes, see what the reporting process is like, because they did change it. I want to say 6 months ago, they just changed the reporting system to make sure it's actually being green and not just something that seems green. So we could see what needs to be done when they're doing it and make a checklist almost. That way when we go for the second round, we may not need them. We may need them then. But I think where they'll be critical is helping us with our second round, since that is the real competitive point. So maintaining that relationship would be helpful just to make sure for that, I feel. And just as a side note, the townwide building operator certification that you see on Laura's first year plan gets us Maya points towards our insurance too.
I think I'm still stuck on the vehicle thing. We're in desperate need of vehicles, either at DPW or with the police department, both really.
Vehicles are, I didn't mean to cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Vehicles are doable under green communities. One of the last things I did at my old job was we got a Nissan Leaf for our inspectors. And charging station's gonna cost you around between 6 and 10, depending on what type of a charging station you get for the car. And you'll get about 150 miles out of the car on a full charge. So it is doable. A car could be pricey depending on what type of car you're going with and what brand it is, or if you go full electric versus hybrid. The hybrids get iffy with the green communities because they're still using fossil fuels with the gas. So they technically really prefer the full electric vehicles for you to get that, and they have denied hybrids in the past. They've said yes to some and no to others, so it's just trying to find what brand they're going for could be difficult.
I also wonder if, given our geographic location, if that would help with more of a hybrid versus, we're not in a city that has charging stations all over.
Right.
Everything that we need to go
Yeah.
to Worcester, it's, 15 miles each way at least.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's why when when Gardner got their electric vehicle, they wouldn't let us get the vehicle until we also got the charging station with the same grant round.
Chief, you okay with the Chevy Volt for your next,
he's
your
going for
next
the
squad?
Open-minded.
Keep it open-minded.
More of an administrative vehicle.
Little Prius who fit the canine to the right seat.
I think that's our only question right now, Laura. We don't know which cars are technically part of the Green Communities acceptance process. And we're sitting on not too much money left after everything gets totaled up, right? We've got, $30,000 left, something like that. So what will $30,000 get us? And if it turns out that there is a great car, but it's more than 30, what would we cut from this list in order to get it? Is that even worth it? Or do we just go with what got suggested? It's not the worst thing in the world.
I think it would just go with what they got. I make a project out of something that doesn't need to be.
Skip, my only thought, and you're right, I think my only thought is people here, we got designated green community, we got $150,000, and if we do things that are 100% necessary, but essentially invisible, people won't see any bang for the buck. So that's, I think, my only concern. That doesn't make it right, and I'm not saying we need to go in that direction.
That's part of our job.
Well,
so.
There are also, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. There are 5 funding programs through Mass DEP, I think, that came out as well, that could be used to complement the Green Communities funding, including for charging stations for electric vehicles.
And one for electric vehicles themselves too.
Yeah. Like a replacement of a
the,
diesel vehicle with electric.
Yeah, the state is taking the money that they got for the settlement in the lawsuit against Volkswagen for their misreporting of their fossil fuel emissions, and sending that out as grant money for municipalities to revamp their fleet, convert diesel vehicles to less
Okay.
pollutant vehicles and purchase electric vehicles and things like that. That said, there's only so much money in that settlement, so it's all depends on who gets the grant and how the application's written. So we are applying for that. It's just, there's also a lot of other people too.
Peter, I'm sorry, Peter.
All right, Peter Crane, Nate's Way. It strikes me that the board has little time to act on this because the paperwork has to be in next Friday. So, but we also have, there's also an amendment path. So that, if I may suggest, put it in as is with all the projects that are currently on the list. Take a little time to think about it, and if you really want to change it, go through the amendment process.
Thank you. Give up on the vehicle for now? Yes? Wait for the other grants?
Well,
As
Laura,
is.
I mean, Laura said she has some emails out also to ask for clarification about the vehicle also,
Okay.
right? So, I mean, I'd say I'm kind of go as presented. We can see what the answers are, kind of give Laura and Mike that and Abby that leeway to do what they deem best based on those answers, and we can always go back in with an amendment.
Right.
Okay.
Especially when we'll get once we get feedback about community hall, maybe they'll come up with something that we're like, it doesn't make sense to do the pipe installation.
Yeah.
So then we can justify that because we had an unexpected turn of events, but we want to use that towards this other.
Sorry, Laura, what, on the front page of it, on the community hall annex, what is the ASHP for $45,000? Do you know?
No, and I don't have that full,
Yeah.
Is that a
electric
heat
measure.
pump?
I don't know. Okay.
Or automated sprinklers.
I can check the
That's
full
okay.
report.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys know.
So one pump with full. All right. Okay. So due on Friday.
I'll make a motion that the board suggests to go forward with the current first year project list, but leaving some leeway to Laura and Mike, given the responses about the vehicle and everything, but to go forward with the first year project list.
Great.
Second.
Any more comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Laura.
Can I tell you at
Yeah.
the MMA, DOER had a big poster board of all the green communities, and Rutland was the only green in the center of the state, and they were so proud because they really they were so happy to see Rutland. It was this big whole open space of no green communities, and Rutland just got it.
Right on the
So
center of the map.
they were so excited to have it, so I took a picture. I'll take it forward. But thank you guys for all your work. I know it was kind of a lot of work over the past few years, so thank you.
Thank you.
Where did we land with CMRPC?
You got approved. It was on your list.
They didn't send so what they sent was the service and cost proposal. I believe there is a contract they'll send over.
Sure, there is.
So I don't know if that needs to be authorized. Mike can sign it, or?
Well, we approved your list, so that went along with CMRPC's proposal and the cost that they
All right.
gave, so they can send their contract over and we'll
Thank you very much.
put it on the next agenda. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Mike for all your,
Abby's like, I did nothing. Okay.
and Margaret. We have to thank Margaret.
Margaret really got the ball rolling. I just
You kept it
see on
going
legacy
though.
and I took over.
Well, thank you.
All right, onward to another committee. So our ad hoc bylaw committee, we got a amazing and surprising number of people interested. Some names that we haven't heard before. I think the one thing we need to talk about tonight is based on our discussion when we made the committee itself. We kind of had a discussion about numbers, and we were all trying to remember where we left it, Abby. I feel like we had given ourselves some flexibility, but now I don't remember.
No.
No, we didn't.
You made it 5.
We made it 5. We have had 7 really good applications. We can all take a look at them. If you want us to, if the board thinks no, 5 is the way to go, we're gonna cut some people, or we can change the ad hoc number to 7.
You have alternates too, like other boards.
You
I
could
think
have,
our-
yeah. I think alternates is hard with this, just because you're working on something so
Gotcha.
definitive that, no, I don't know. That's just me.
I think our reasoning for saying 5 was we didn't want the group to be so large that it was difficult to get everybody together. But I agree, all the applicants are super qualified and seem super motivated and excited to do the work. So
The other thing is, it seems like a group that will be able to work together and divide and conquer, because it is a
Yeah.
lot of work.
Right.
That would be the one positive to a slightly larger group. Which, and then if somebody doesn't always make it, you're still sitting with, you know, a group of 5 as opposed to a group of 3.
Yeah.
I'm
So
fine
there-
with 7.
Yeah,
Well, I have no problem amending it to 7.
the only question I'd like to ask all of them is they have the town in mind, or they have special things
conflicts
they
of
want to get done?
Right.
And I can see one right there.
Okay. So obviously, they didn't answer that. We didn't ask them that question outright. Let's just go through our names, and, do we have a we don't have a list, right? We just have the letters. So, okay, we have Anita Carlson, current town clerk. I know there was certainly an understanding fairly early on that she would be an understood member of this committee.
If I may.
So that's one. We're just gonna get through our list. Hold on. Then we have a Ronald Kent. He is a resident since 2005, and he is a scientist. Organic chemistry is his background. We then have an attorney named Lynn Turcott, who's lived in town for quite some time, and she has also served on several other committees, commissions, and things in the past. We have Peter Crane, who is here tonight. He can speak for himself in a minute. We have Lindsay Demers, another attorney. Writes in her cover letter that she has some expertise in drafting and enacting legislation. She notes that she's worked with members of the State House. There's no names there. Actually, Senator Murray is on her resume. And then Abby, who was the? Carrie Greenwood. Karen Greenwood, thank you. Karen, a longtime resident, also has served on many town committees, commissions, etc. Retired veterans agent from Worcester. And then finally, Norm Anderson, who is the current chair of the planning board. And obviously, one of our goals, I shouldn't say obviously, but one of our goals was to move forward with ensuring that the town general bylaws versus the planning board bylaw subcommittee had as smooth a transition as we could manage, which, you know, we'll do our best. And so, you know, is that a situation where his presence would help to bridge that? Did I do that math right? Is that 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our 7. Peter, did you want to speak for yourself?
No.
No.
I was actually going to speak for someone else.
Oh, really?
Yes, I was going to speak for Anita. She and I have had this discussion several times.
Oh.
Speak for who?
Anita Carlson.
Speaking for
town
Anita.
clerk, and that she is entirely willing to serve ex officio if there were 5 other candidates worthy of the board, so that she She and I agree that 5 is probably the most right number for this size board, for the amount of work we need to get done and the speed with which we need to get it done. And so she said she was willing to be ex officio and not have to be a formal member of the board if there were enough members, so that there would effectively be a non-voting member, sixth member of the board. Now, I don't like speaking for other people, but she's not here to defend herself, so.
And I don't have it in front of me. Do we have the charge? It was to codify and to create a bylaw for the bylaw, for creating a bylaw committee, like a general bylaw committee, yes? So it was those two, it wasn't to kind of continue on, this ad hoc committee wasn't to then continue on with other bylaws, is that?
I believe the only reference when it was formulated was that and this was amended at the last meeting, that any work that was done by the ad hoc committee would be passed along to the official bylaw committee after the town meeting if approved.
Right.
And I think, probably, and the point of it being ad hoc is that we name it, it's a working group. I think the one thing we probably didn't think through was, look, here we are at the end of January. Will everything be ready in time for May? Possibly not. Do we amend the charge a little bit of the ad hoc bylaw committee so that everybody can work together on one of the primary goals, which we're going to talk about next, which is managed growth, kind of your area. And so, we've got some things up in the air.
If I may stick my nose in again, the permanent bylaw committee could not take form until at least August.
I don't doubt it. And
only because the Attorney General won't approve the bylaw in under 3 months.
Right, right.
So as a practical matter, it's virtually, the ad hoc committee would need to continue until that transition were complete.
Oh, I don't think that was ever a question. I think the question right now is how much will we be able to really have in place for May? And how much of it will have to wait until fall town meeting, which not the end of the world, as you and I talked about. October comes fast, November, but.
Don't forget, we tabled the open container, the open marijuana.
We did. Another bylaw. Yeah.
But I guess that was part of my question for the clarification of this ad hoc committee, was not to continue to look at the need for,
The original charge did not include adding other bylaws other than the one for the permanent bylaw committee. That's the original charge.
Right.
Yeah, and this is part of that transition.
Right.
Because we would never have even had this conversation. Everything would have just gone to the planning board subcommittee because that's just sort of how things ultimately ended up for whatever reason. And so I think for these bylaws that we would hopefully like to see coming up in May, it's just gonna have to be a cooperative process.
But I guess, and that was a little bit, I guess, to Skip's point also, is if we don't, unfortunately, we don't have all of these residents here to ask questions of, but for their given charge, do we think that they're qualified for their given charge of codifying existing bylaws and working to create a bylaw to create a bylaw committee? And so I guess.
Or you could send out a follow-up questionnaire. I mean, what is your objective for being on this committee? Do you have an individual goal? Because I, like Skip, I have a concern if somebody has a private agenda. I'm not familiar with what he's referring, or whom he's referring to, but or if somebody does have a unique, streamlined agenda for being on a committee, that needs to be addressed, preferably before we create them. So,
Skip, I don't think there's any question that over the years, elected or appointed, that people do have
Their
things
own
that
agenda,
they have their
oh,
own
yes.
pet projects, and probably everyone does to a point. I think the question is with the professional backgrounds or town service backgrounds that we're seeing here, and knowing the charge of the bylaw committee, I'm not seeing anyone that I would be concerned would be a derailing factor in what we're headed for with this ad hoc particular committee. Does that make sense? We want to codify the bylaws.
Then let's
create
change
a
it to,
bylaw.
let's change the members to 7 and not 5.
7 and not 5.
Yep, bring it up to 7
Yeah.
and take all of them that are right there and put them on the board.
I mean, yeah, and you-
Because otherwise, if you watch some of the televised meetings of the planning board,
okay,
all right, if you watched them and you saw what went on at some of them,
okay.
that, right there, no.
Okay, so let's say hypothetically there was somebody that had been going before the planning board with very strong feelings. The question is, would any of that be relevant to a codification of our existing general bylaws?
So long as we have a simple charge that doesn't allow people to muck around in other spaces, the fast answer is probably not. Because everything that falls under planning board would, virtually everything, belongs in the zoning bylaw, not the general bylaw.
Right.
So somebody who has, let me pick something not quite at random, if someone has a particular view on solar, on a solar bylaw, that is not a general bylaw, and therefore the ad hoc committee has no jurisdiction.
So I think to everyone's concerns, if we are going to take 7, because we've had 7, you know, and by the way, maybe I'm not objective because sometimes we're begging for people and now all of a sudden
That's
we
right,
got
we got
7, which is amazing. I don't want to
Well,
say no to anybody. How about if we do end up naming all 7, enlarge the committee slightly, keep the charge simple, we send out a letter to them saying thank you for your interest, you've been named to this committee, we'd like to follow up with just ensuring that you recognize that if you have any barriers or.
Let's be real. How many people are gonna say, oh yeah, I got a
No, no.
problem and I'm gonna do this
No,
and
no,
do that? No
no,
way.
not a
They're
question.
not gonna say.
No, not a
They're
question.
gonna say, I'm here, yeah,
Yeah.
let's be real.
No, not a question. Just
So I
an
wouldn't even
admonition.
ask it. I
I'm
wouldn't
not-
even ask it. Just put them on the board. This, the 7-man board, 7-person board
Okay.
will outweigh, there's enough people there to make sure that nobody walks away with anything.
Okay,
It's also ad hoc at this point.
yeah,
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can tweak it, and this could be a good rationale for lowering it or increasing it, but, you know,
yeah.
down the road. So because it's ad hoc, we have a lot of, I think, wiggle room to shave it off.
We
if
have the
it's-
flexibility.
A lot of flexibility if it doesn't work out, and we're not insulting those who step forward to answer the call like we
Yeah.
asked, so.
And also, I wasn't headed towards a question, because Skip, you're right, nobody's ever gonna answer a question like that, but to just
Why even,
make it-
why bother
make it very
wasting
clear.
everybody's time sending out a letter and postage and when
Okay,
we got 7 people here, let's just do it. Let's get it done, get it over with and get it started.
okay, make the motion.
I will. I'll make a motion and we appoint all 7 members to the, what are we doing here?
Ad hoc
Ad
bylaw
hoc committee, bylaw committee.
All right,
So increase the number to 7 and appoint all 7.
Yep,
All 7 applicants.
I'll second that.
increasing to 7 with the, yeah, that's good, yeah. Because we can always change it later,
That's right.
do I have a
once it
second?
gets
I second it.
permanent.
Any questions?
No.
So that motion includes increasing the number to 7, officially. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Yep.
Great.
Thanks, Peter.
Jeff?
Yes.
Perambulation.
Perambulation. Well, I'm pleased to report, the Office of the Perambulator is pleased to report that we've partnered with the Boy Scout troop. I have spoken with the Scoutmaster of, I don't want to mispronounce the troop, but I think it's 123 and 306, different troops for the Scouts.
I thought 306 was the one that combined with.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
131.
different number.
So 306 still has their own Boy Scouts, I think.
Oh,
They're in
all right.
Rutland.
Rutland's-
141 are in Rutland.
Whatever you say, Jeff.
123 is over in.
Okay, so the Scout, Dean Desautel, the Scoutmaster for the town of Boy Scouts. I spoke with him today, and we talked about the, you know, what goes behind it, and he was very excited because the timing is right. He has a lot of Eagle Scout candidates that are trying to get, I guess certification is probably a bad word, but try to get the prerequisites to prepare for being an Eagle Scout, and one of the goals that they have is a government, like a government type of civics involvement where these candidates are asked to do 8 hours of this type of civicness. And it's more so than just going out and finding the stones. It would be, there's a presentation before a government entity that in a speaking obligation and things like that, that would be very interested. And I also want to reach out to the Girl Scouts too to see if they have any interest. So I just had that conversation today with them. I also had a conversation with Carl Christensen for, he's Troop 123. He also has some interest in there too. So there's a lot of, depending on the stones, we can have different subgroups. So the conversation's been started. He's going to bring it up, and I'm going to go to the next meeting, and we're going to get our team together, and we'll bring it to you in pieces, and so that's it. So we're moving forward.
Still no date.
Okay, quality. This is spring. This is going to be a spring project,
Spring.
right?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's all good.
Sounds good. Anybody have any questions about perambulation? Do you know about perambulation, Mike?
Briefly, Jeff was telling me about it last week. That was
Okay,
the first I ever heard of it.
Well, they don't have stones in Gardner, right? What do they? They probably don't have cornerstones.
No?
I don't know.
No idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Probably in the middle of somebody's building.
So I just have a question, and so Troop 123, I think, is where Mr. Deirdren is out of. Yes, is that?
Oh, maybe that's why he started. So that's
So-
so he's Lester.
So
Okay.
he's Lester.
just-
So I know 306 and 141 are Rutland's troops, but I don't know
That's
about
Rutland's.
123.
So Carl Christensen Jr. and Dean Desautel's their troops.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, whatever those numbers are. And not
Whatever
troops.
the
They might be, oh, they are troops
I
at
think
that
the
age.
boys.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I think, I don't, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, they said they had a camping excursion coming up this weekend
This weekend.
at Treasure Valley, and one of the stones is located there. So
That
they're
makes
going to go
sense.
take a look and start the conversation from there.
Okay, great.
So that's it.
You're gonna make an online map so we can all.
No, it's going to be fantastic. Yeah, the
Don't you
final
think,
product.
like a Strava, as they're walking, we can see them.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. The final product is going to be a big show.
Instead of tracking Santa, we'll be able to track.
Track the perambulator.
Yes. I want
There
to
you
track
go.
the yes,
Yeah.
like Santa tracker.
Yeah, big time. Oh yeah.
We're basically gonna put GPS on you.
Yeah.
And okay.
There'll be photos, and then there'll be like a meeting of the. We talked about teaming up with the opposite troop from the different towns and things.
But how many other towns do what we're doing?
Well, no, Princeton
there's
did.
Spear.
Princeton took it very seriously.
Princeton did,
Princeton's all
yeah.
in on their perambulation.
But there's many messages that could be
Yeah.
through
I'm
this,
thinking
yeah.
live YouTube. I mean, this is.
Well,
where
that'd
in the
certainly
world
be
is- where in the world-
certainly be Mrs. Roy for
Yeah.
some photos. But it's what you make of it. You get the geocaching. He talked about the specific merit badges that lead up towards the Eagle Scout, but geocaching is a big thing. And then, but the government civics one specifically for a young Eagle Scout, take it to that level. So,
Perfect.
yeah, and they don't. As we just saw earlier with the demonstration, we don't always have the opportunity to come forward and make a presentation to a board. That's kind of a big deal to a young mind, and we're happy to play into that. All of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Managed growth bylaw.
So we have been meeting more frequently. The important thing to note, and this has been posted, I believe, right, Abby, that our next meeting of the Managed Growth Steering Committee was pushed to February 27th. So we had our last steering committee meeting last week, January 23rd. Meeting lasted only a half an hour. It was basically just to check the winds, check the direction on which way we wanted to go for our next meeting. Present at the meeting was CMRPC, Ron Barron, who's also the chair, myself, Sean Moore from the Planning and Concon, Dave George, our town planner, Dick Williams from Planning, Scott Gilroy from the Board of Health was there. So we had a full team. Next meeting, we asked, at the request of CMRPC, was to move it back to February 27th. Now, we also asked to have it all posted, and this is where we really want to have the word out there for full transparency, that this is a workshop or an informational session, and this would be the opportunity for CMRPC to finally present their findings on their managed growth study. They're gonna put out the numbers in there. They're going to do the overlay of if this available land was developed, then this is what you could likely see. So the numbers will be put out there, and this would be an opportunity where we would specifically look for the community input. And it's not a hearing, but we would look for community input because this is what's going to preempt bringing forward a direction for our managed growth bylaw. So I believe that's significant, and we would encourage everybody, especially on the board, to participate February 27th. We did ask to see if we can have the big room in the library available. Did you get that one, Mike? So, okay. And we'd also like to see if we can have that televised, sir. And that, we would like to make this public. We would like to maybe put something on the town billboard, if at all possible. This is the opportunity. Speak now because a big vote is projected for the town meeting. Okay? So it was about a half an hour meeting just to keep us in check, and that's it. Any questions?
If you have a sense going forward after this, will there be formal hearings? Will you have posted hearings? Like there was I know for the marijuana bylaw, there were at least a couple public hearings leading up to it that were formally advertised as public hearings. Will there be something?
I don't know that the steering committee is gonna be having the hearing, but you have, a couple of different directions. You're gonna have the planning, if it's a zoning change projection.
Zoning change would require a public hearing. A general bylaw does not require a public meeting at all.
Okay, and then if it's gonna be a policy change, then it's gonna come back to the board here, so.
Bigger than the board. Are there minutes from your meetings?
I take full notes, and I'd be happy to compile them into meetings.
Okay.
And you should also get them to Anita.
Yep.
It's one page. Yep.
All right, so February 27th, and is the idea that then one in February, one in March, one in April will be information or open meetings geared towards public input that will help to sort of really,
Well, all the meetings are open, for sure.
well, no, but
But,
meant to be public input sessions to really frame out the final.
correct, and that, we prefer to have it at this stage in February, that far out, and then.
Okay. And then.
But we all agreed that we needed to get the numbers out there, first of all. We've been talking about the CMRPC
Right.
study, but it's a time to formally say, hey, these are the numbers and here's why. I have the spreadsheet as I discussed at the last meeting, but it hasn't been finalized in there. He's ready to formally release that for our consumption.
So that's what's gonna get released on the 27th? That's big.
Yeah, it is, and it's gonna be a CMRPC presentation in there, and that's why he asked to step it back the 2 weeks so that it can be finalized and,
Does he have the ability to do a flyer? Should we do a flyer? That's well worth a white paper, even if it's not printed, even if it's a PDF, we'll do the red scroll across the top. I think you're right. This is a topic a lot of people
Yeah.
are interested in.
I would refer to Mike.
Maybe you guys can reach
the
out, see
cable,
where- I don't
cable
know if-
access announcement.
Sure.
I think the town billboard announcement, should already be posted, right? We put it out.
Calendar, Damien was gonna wait a couple of weeks to put it on the news, cause the news she didn't want it to get lost
Yeah.
at the bottom. She was gonna bump
Okay.
it up a few weeks prior, so it's at the top of this month.
But we could actually even do a news and announcements email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The time is the meeting.
We've been starting them at 6:30.
Okay. That's great. Can't wait.
Joe.
I partly can't wait to hear the numbers, and I'm partly dreading the numbers.
I don't think you will be surprised,
Okay.
but a response is necessary.
Yep. Is there anything else to come before the board? Nope.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.